All right, well, let's get started. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for joining Ask the MVP. I'm Chris Cognetta, along with my beautiful host, Dian Taylor. And we are your Microsoft, we used to be business applications MVPs, which is soon changing. But hey, Dion, why don't you do a quick intro and then I'll follow you up.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so like Chris was saying, my name is Dian Taylor. I'm a director at RSM, and I work there as a pre-sales director. So I get to play around with these nice new Copilot features, etc. And I've been an MVP since early 2020. Time flies when you're having fun, but not as long as the OG Chris. Chris, go ahead.
The OG, right?
The
So,
OG, man.
wow, I don't remember how many years ago that we met, but I'm Chris Cognetta. I'm the CTO here at CongruentX, which is both the technology information officer and as innovation product. So I'm building products and working through a lot of these challenges with the AI stuff, as many of you are probably dealing with the same thing. Shout out to Charlie. Hey, Charlie, good to see you out here today. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. And really the rest of you, because it's a topic that a lot of people are talking about. So, AI is something like Diane was saying, is it's in every product, right? And we were just like sitting on the call counting. What did we get to? 14, 15 different Go-Pilots.
A lot for sure. Yeah, there's a Copilot for everything. We were just kidding that, which is kidding, haha, not kidding, that there's actually a Copilot inside of Microsoft Copilot Studio if you want to use Copilot to create your topics. So there's a Copilot for Copilot, which is kind of
Yeah, for
interesting.
sure. And when you look at this, it's creating a lot of confusion. People are not understanding, well, which co-pilot are you talking about? The good news is the overall intent is to never have to know which co-pilot you're in. That's where they're headed, right? They hear the stories, they hear the comments, but the concept will be that if you're working in Outlook and you're using Copilot for sales, and then you switch off to do something in Word, it would be understanding where you were coming from. And if that context was needed, it would still be available to surface across there, Power Apps, the business applications, wherever you may be. So almost as your true digital AI assistant, right? Through all of these items, allowing you to see that. So I think that will help with the licensing. So hang on with the licensing and what they are and what the names are. And when you're talking about it, don't assume someone knows which Copilot you're talking about. Say it's the one in Word or the one in Outlook or the one in Azure, right? Right, Dion?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that some of that stuff is kind of merging together as well, right? Like we see with Copilot for sales right now, where some of the functionality you're going to get if you have just a Dynamics 365 sales license. I think it's enterprise or any of those. But then there's additional functionality in Copilot for sales. I have to keep thinking about the name, where you need a Copilot, an M365, a Microsoft 365 Copilot in order to utilize some of those functions, right? So like Chris was saying, you're working in your Outlook and you're utilizing, right, being able to update some records by utilizing Copilot for sales. But now you want to put together, for example, a document that preps you for a meeting. This is coming, right, in the next release or in this release wave that we're in, 2024 wave one. So very confusing, like Chris is saying, because, right, which licenses do I need for some of those functionality, some of those features that we have there? So yeah, a little
And if
tough.
we get some feedback from the audience that they want to hear more about licensing, I'd be happy to invite an AI or a Dynamics licensing person over to talk about that in a future topic, because I think, it's very confusing, especially when you think about the Copilot for sales and the fact that it's not only Dynamics, it's also integrated with Salesforce and maybe soon to be others, right? So when you look at that, even the customer service Copilot is integrated with ServiceNow. So you're
Yep.
going to see these connectors, these capabilities open up to these other stacks where other companies and products are going to insert their own data into Copilot. So you get more enhanced results. I think we saw already, I think it was DocuSign, where you can now
Yep.
see the status of hey, I'm talking to Dian, it's this opportunity, and this document was already connected. I think you're going to see that, right? And leverage that if you're that type of customer and you want to see that. But you may see it even from your business apps. Or what about seeing downstream information without, again, this whole thing is about how much can I surface to you that you can consume and understand without having to make you go click or do something else is really one of the major points of a co-pilot. Would you agree?
I totally agree. It really is that assistant, right? No matter where you are, it could be your assistant at home when you're, putting documents together for maybe the soccer team of your kids, right? Where you have M365 Copilot that you can utilize for that as well. And I think, like I said, for individuals, there's a different name for it. I just forgot what it was called, but you can do that as well. But when you're working, right, like Chris, like you were saying, we can have Sales Copilot that helps you with those sales types of things, right? I also think we kind of, as a salesperson, need to kind of shift our thinking, because usually what we would do if we wanted to see certain things, hey, what are my opportunities? What's the highest win rate? All that type of stuff. We would go to a dashboard, and now we can just utilize Copilot to ask those questions. And I also feel if you're not in sales, let's say you are in marketing or you are in customer service, right? You now have that Copilot, I wanted to call it almost like an agent Copilot, right? That kind of sits in the application following your conversation that you have with your customer. And you can just click a button and it will go through your knowledge content and then give you the correct answer. I mean, if you just looking at the productivity, right, that we're going to get out of that. And Microsoft is using this today. We actually had the opportunity to, when I was at MVP Summit, to actually walk through their call center and kind of see how they're utilizing these features themselves as well. But really kind of going back to what you were saying, Chris, really being your assistant no matter where you are, right? If you're at home doing things, you're a seller, you're working in marketing, you're in customer service. And then when we talk about Copilot for service, like you just mentioned, being able to surface that same agent in a different customer service application like ServiceNow or anything like that. I mean, it just blows my mind. But
yeah, it's such a great use case. I think the numbers that I have in our, I call it the instant ROI deck, right? Because everybody's always trying to say, well, how much money is this going to save me or what am I going to gain? But they had a 12% reduction, which means 12% time reduction in handling cases across the board just by turning on Copilot for customers, right? This is within Microsoft's numbers. Within that 12% that they reduced times, there was an additional 10% of the handling time as well. So it's not just the fact that their bots and their AI assisted information solve the problem faster. It's also the fact that the time on the call with the person was even made faster. So they're seeing that, and that's only in the first 30 days, 12% and 10% on the other number, which I'll publish those out later if you guys want to see some of those numbers. I think they'll help. But, and thanks for the guys that have joined so far. Again, this is for you guys. Me and Dian, we're talking through different items and what we're going to do. And we're just, if you guys have questions, we're here for you. Just like as if you were at a conference and you wanted to ask a question, that's why we're here. Otherwise, we're just going through content that we think you guys would want to hear, which brings up a big one, right? How about AI responsibility, right? This is the number one conversation that I hear from customers around security. It hasn't been approved yet. We're all concerned about our corporate secrets, all of these things. This is what we mean when we talk about AI responsibility, right? It's not only the fact of using these tools, but how do I protect the people in my organization that are using them to make sure that that data doesn't end up anywhere else? To give you some great examples of this, who used ChatGPT directly? They went out there, started playing around, start typing things in the model to get an answer. Guess what? That information in the beginning was used to help train their models. And they were pretty clear about it, right? There was some warnings and some stuff there, but we all wanted to play. We all wanted to create that AI generated image. Fun fact, to create that image, that one little image that you told it what to do, took as much power to power a light bulb for a day in a house, right? Just some very interesting items when you think about it. But when you look at AI responsibility and what's going on here, the major question is my data and what happens to it. So this is why now, if you log into ChatGPT and you do it with a paid or a account that's tied to your work domain address, you will see that it says your data is protected. You'll also see that in all of the co-pilots on what's happening and how Microsoft is protecting us. If you think about, the information in the middle of the box is what you're asking. They've surrounded your box with their box, which is more prompting that says, strip all these things out that have any PII data that are specific to a name of a customer, any of that. It doesn't know any of that. It's just basically, it's getting down to the core details needed to ask the AI. And then they're guaranteeing that transaction between your tenant and the OpenAI tenant for Microsoft is secure. So that's one big way that when you use these co-pilots and you use the Microsoft offerings, your data is protected.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the Salesforce commercial on that. It says, your data is not our business.
Oh, I have actually. I was very surprised by that. The person that was actually doing that, I was like, holy moly. Yeah, because it's kind of interesting that you were just saying that. You also notice that if you utilize Copilot on the web, if you sign into your account, it says the same thing, right? Your data is now protected. I think Charlie has a question.
Yeah, Charlie, come on off mute.
Hey, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
We can.
Awesome. In regards to that, with the security, what about for partners that are working with a client? Cross-domain, if you're trying to, put together some information for the client in regards to their data, is that available to do with the current security model?
Oh boy. So as
Sorry.
a consultant in the field, this is something that we're running in all the time. And I'll tell you how we're answering it, because I'm being asked these questions on all of the new MSAs and security profiles from all the security guys out there. And basically the question is, how do you not use our data or use AI services against our data? And the answer is simple. It's complex, but it's simple. The simple answer is that you want to be using an ID that's within that customer's tenant, that's under their security policies and information. And anything that you do with AI is happening inside of that tenant under those policies, not that you're taking an Excel spreadsheet, for example, and running it on your local version of Office and doing something with the AI there. It would all need to happen through their identity, their security, and their guidelines to basically be compliant with access. And, a lot of people haven't done that. I have seen a lot of people who are using information from clients to help. Well, let me figure out how to do this. I need to code this. What would you say? As soon as you put that in a model that's not protected, that information could be short. So identity theft of IP is huge in these models. And it's not just about business data, right? How many authors and musicians are all pissed off because now, I mean, you go out there, I don't know if you tried this, but you go tell it, hey, create me a new song between Chris and Dian, the MVPs, and what they sung. And next thing you know, it's got their voices and it's singing some song about co-pilots, right? It's possible. I have seen it so much so that songs were actually showing up on playlists in like the general playlist, like Billboard 100, and the song doesn't even exist. So there's lots of things like that. But the best recommendation I could give you as a consultant and as a CTIO is if you're working in that customer's environment, make sure you're within their policies, their governance, their controls. And I'm also seeing a lot of people who use Graph and the government stack inside of Microsoft 365 are turning off some of these things, right? They don't want these capabilities yet until they can learn a little bit more about what they do. So good questions. And again, we don't want to discourage anybody from using it. We just want to use it in a responsible manner. There are a lot of benefits to using it, but I think this all goes back to the name itself. There's a specific reason why it's called the co-pilot, right?
Yeah, it's
Dian,
not the pilot. We're the pilots. We still have to be cognizant of the fact that, right, this is content created by AI. So we still have to go in there and kind of review it and make sure it's good, right, before we actually submit it. And I kind of like the fact that when you, for example, look at the agent co-pilot in customer service, right, that actually goes into your knowledge articles and your websites, et cetera, and puts an answer together based on, right, what the questions that your customer asked you in that chat or whatever. It actually says it right there. This is AI generated. Make sure, right, to review it so that you know that it's actually correct information, and also allowing you to kind of see where Copilot got the information from, like showing you those sources so you have the ability to look through that. Because yeah, absolutely, it is a co-pilot. We're still the pilot, so we still need to take control, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people, I know your LinkedIn and your email has been spammed to death with AI. I saw you did this yesterday and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? We all see that, right? It's not something, Kari's laughing at that, but yes, we're all seeing the same thing, and you're going to start to see filters, right, that filter out some of that behavior. I know that OpenAI and ChatGPT are working on a model that actually helps detect AI responses, right? Now I'm like, well, how do they do that? They're recording every response and playing it against it. Is there a certain way to detect it? And things like within Copilot of Sales, you can actually change the type of response from a normal to a professional. You ever see that part, Dian?
Yep.
You can change the etiquette style. I mean, it's scary.
That. Yeah, it's also really cool because we can just do it as end users to kind of, like you said, kind of change that up. But you can also, if we're talking about Microsoft's Copilot Studio, you can do it there as well, right? So if we're talking about generative answers, where we're saying, okay, here's a document, and if Copilot doesn't know the answer, then go into that document, try to find it, or go to this website. You can kind of do the same thing. You can say, hey, you can even give it like a persona. So if you have a Copilot that is answering questions related to HR, you can say, you're the HR manager and you're answering these questions and you're being very nice and that type of stuff as well, it just blows my mind, but it's really cool. Yeah.
And it will speak that context to Dian's point. Like we say, hey, I'm the sales manager reviewing how my sales manager did on this call, right? It's going to act as a sales manager. How does it get that context? Because its learning model understands here are the things that a sales manager does. So it's going to use that in its mindset to evaluate. So again, the training models are what makes these things appear smart, but they're not smart, right? They're learning from the aspects of what's there, what's been trained on to answer from what's trained on. And that's why like an application like Copilot for Service is extremely compelling, because it's looking at the data of all the things you collected on your products, right? What was broken, what was issued, and it's helping find that. Do you know today, the only way you'd find it is by manually tagging every one of your support articles with all the different instances that this came up because of this happened, or this came up because you have to manually do that. And if you don't do that, then there's no match.
There's no match, right?
That all goes away by turning on Copilot for Service. Now you got indexed matches of AI against the data. But again, that's just like two of the ways that people are benefiting from some of these things, right? We've always talked about, and when we founded our company, was around you work with Alexa and Siri and all of these cool tools every day at home and everything, but we have nothing like that inside the business, right? Well, it's here today, right? It's here, and responsibility is some of the things we were talking about, but also not creating that bot or chat agent that's going to go out and spam a whole bunch of people because it came up with these responses. That's on all of us, right? So as a community, as we learn and see these things, I think that's going to grow. And I think for some of you that joined, Dian and I were talking about how many co-pilots there is, right? And how many almost every product. We just heard about the announcement for the Azure Copilot. We just heard about it we knew the Service Copilot was out there. My favorite one to date is the PowerPoint Copilot. That thing is absolutely amazing. You tell it, you give it an outline, and it builds all your slides, all your graphics, all your content. I mean, how much time saving is that? Yes, Carney, go ahead. I see your hands up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm really excited as well about the copilots. And I just wanted to know if you guys can recommend some tools to help with costs, or like a calculator to help with costs. So when you enable these different copilots, you don't get a surprise.
Sure. So we're not trying to make this thing salesy, because we're here for you guys. But if you go out to our website for Get Copilot for Sales Right, there's an ROI calculator that will allow you to enter in your salespeople, how many you have, how much dollars they make per year, and a couple other things like the cost of Dynamics. Do you have the license, or do you have the Salesforce license? And it'll give you a ballpark ROI. That's one example. But what we're finding is that these ROIs are actually driving these conversations. I mean, in today's world, we're living in this net zero type of expenditure. First of all, it's because our economy and dollars cost a lot of money to borrow right now. So people are wondering, how can I do these things and have a net zero impact to the IT budget, but add great value to the business budget, right? And things like being able to reduce the customer experience 10% time, from savings, there's your ROI right there, right? And the business is gladly going to do that, because for them to reduce that time, they may have to add 10 call center agents, 10 new PCs, 10 new office licenses. So the big thing I want to share with you is this is not an IT discussion. This is a business and IT discussion. If you don't have the partner to implement it with you, turning this on and just flicking it on and say it's going to work great and everyone's going to be good is a great way to fail. I don't know if you agree with me, Dian.
Oh, I do. I think honestly that goes for a lot of applications, right? I've had sales managers do the same thing with Dynamics 365, or back in the days it was called Dynamics CRM. I'll just turn it on and we'll just use it as we go. And it's just never really a good idea. I also, by the way, Chris, I really like what you said earlier about it being not just a discussion with your IT department, but also with the business itself, right? And with the sales managers and the salespeople, et cetera. But I kind of want to take a step back and also focus, because we talked a lot about Dynamics 365 and the copilots in there, right? For marketing, or customer insight journeys, as it's called right now, there's a copilot there. Customer service, we talked about. Sales, we talked about. But now let's take a step back and also talk a little bit about like the citizen developers, right, in your organization that are building Power Apps, and the new folks that are not familiar with Power Apps and Power Automate and GitHub. We have copilots for those as well, right? Now, if you want to create
amazing.
an app,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just like you want to create an app, you just enter in that app the prompt of what you want it to do. And obviously you need to have a little bit of a background of like, I want to have a table and I want columns and I want that type of stuff, but it just builds it for you. Same thing with Power Automate, right? I mean, if you look at that and the amount, the training time that kind of cuts down, right? And the ability to very quickly create those Power Apps and those Power Automate flows. I mean, it's just crazy to me.
My
right?
favorite demo one is you're a used car sales manager trying to take inventory of your lot. You need to track your foreign and domestic vehicles, their mileage, their colors of interiors, whether they're automatic or manual, and let it go. And the next thing you know, it comes up with an app that has not only the fields and all the tables and things that we're talking about, but here's the shocker that really got me, is it went out to the internet and actually pulled real vehicles. So there was, Honda Accords, there were Ford Mustangs, there were Cadillac Escalades, right? And then I thought like interior colors, it would just come back like purple, red, green. No, it actually locked it down to black, silver, gray. Those are the color, beige. Those are the colors of cars today. right?
Yeah.
It was just
it was pretty
amazing how the data sets are also being generated. And when you said low code developer, it's also for pro code developer, right?
Yep, true.
When you look at GitHub, here's a stat for you. In the first 45 days of Copilot being enabled in GitHub, 40% of all code generated was generated through AI. 40%.
Yeah.
In 1 month. How is that possible? It's real simple, because you start typing in a function, and the same way it's looking through your knowledge base articles, it's looking through all the open source code and saying, oh, wait a second, there's 6 other people that wrote something very similar, and then it pops it up, and then you go, that's great, but I want to add this new feature. So it gives you that, you add your new feature in there, and next thing you know, you've improved upon code. Well, if any of you have ever built code before, what happens with that first version of code? It's pretty buggy, right? But as you keep using it, it gets better and better and better, because more people have tested it, more scenarios have been gone through with it, and now it gets better quality, right? Well, imagine doing that with everybody on the planet, because that's what you're doing. You're actually, that's a true value of open source, and being able to use AI to detect, hey, you're trying to build this function. Bob or Julie already did this function. Take a look at it. Guess what? You just bumped the credibility of your application as well. So now your bugs go down, the time to develop go down because the code just appeared, right? All within 1 month. And I always say this, but I believe that AI is the fastest adoption curve ever. You know, we talk about Moore's Law and 8 months and all of that, but I'm telling you, I've seen it in days and hours, sometimes weeks, and not even that long for some of these things that are popping up. And they may not be considered, you know, technology enhancements, but certainly when you can take the same systems that we all have today and just apply this and get results like that, that's, and listen, this is just the tip of the iceberg of where we're going.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, thanks
100%.
for the other ones that have joined. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions on AI, co-pilots, really looking for you, your audience participation. We're both here to talk to you guys as if we're at a conference, but if not, we're just plugging through the topics of things that were asked. So I know there's a few new people that joined. We'll give you a second to see if you want to raise your hand and come off the mic and ask a question. Otherwise, we'll keep talking.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, by the way, Chris, I saw the same thing that you did. I think it was at, what was it? Was it at Ignite or some conference where they were showing those numbers? And it was just ridiculous to understand that is the impact that it's having. Like you said, 40% of the code is now written by a co-pilot, right? Where these guys are just saying like, hey, I want to do this. Can you just give me some C# for that? And then boom, 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 it just creates that. It's just completely crazy to be able to do that. But also in other areas, right? There's, I think they just came out with, what's it called? Copilot for Finance was like last week or the week before that they announced that. And then we also have Copilot for Security, which kind of helps in those particular areas, which is, I think, also one of the greatest things. I'm just waiting for what Microsoft announced regarding to the Dynamics 365 Copilots, right? For us to be able to extend them, and what is that going to look like? You know, I'm very curious about that. And like I said, that should, I think they announced that for this wave. So I just kind of want to get my hands on there. Currently, if you actually open up Microsoft Copilot Studio, you actually see the sales Copilot sitting there. Have you seen that yet? You just can't do anything. It says like it's locked because it's a managed solution and stuff like that. So I'm just very curious. I'm guessing, this is just me spitballing, right? I'm guessing that we're just going to be able to use and create like plugins and stuff like that using Power Automate and Dataverse stuff, so that we can pull in data from other sources as well, and then just ask about that in the sales application, right? So say, and like,
for
hey,
all you Dynamics old school people, we're not talking about plugins in Dynamics. We're talking about AI plugins like that are inside of ChatGPT, where you can get a plugin that can read a document or bring in a different data source or something like that. We're talking about being able to do that inside the Copilots, and within the next Well, we're about 3 or 4 days away here. We'll be talking about what we've done with Dialogue Copilot and how we've integrated it in with the Copilot as well. So the ability to extend them, again, tip of iceberg of where this is going. Again, we got about 2 minutes left. I know we had from 12:15, 12:45 to give you guys time for lunch and break for your next meeting, because everybody doesn't really get a break, but we're happy to stay on and answer any other questions. And Dian, again, thanks for joining. We hope to do this maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. AI is changing every single day. We're putting a lot of hours at night, right? Staying up, sleeping, trying to understand these things. Don't feel alone. Talk about it. Ask us, ping us on LinkedIn, ping us on Twitter. We're happy to have you. Copilot for Fabric. That's a great one, Cassie. We were just talking about that before you guys joined. You know, Fabric, if you don't know, is an amazing tool, right? In the fact that it can actually answer the questions against data that's in your source repository. You know, the challenge that we're seeing is that you got to deploy all those other things first, right? What people want is a fabric against their CRM or their ERP that can answer those questions in a Copilot type message. And I think we may see some of that. Again, just my own opinion, but that's the ask. You see these LLMs that are out there, you know, large language models. Yeah. I think you're going to start to see DSM, which is domain specific models. And I think you're also going to see CSLM, which is customer specific models. So that way you can build your own model based on all your own data and then point all these tools at it. And now it will know about, you know, hey, this is the RSM model. This is the Congruent X model. I think you're going to see some things like that on the horizon that will just blow your mind in what's coming. But these are the next apps, right? QA scorecards working with Copilot. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know what QA scorecards are, so not sure.
I think, are you talking about the actual feature as far as customer service in a scorecard, like an NPS score, something like that? Quality assurance in the contact center, yep. So we're actually doing that right now with AI. You can actually feed in what an NPS score is and then look for those evaluation points within the call and the transcript and see those answers. If you want to take a look at that, you can reach out to us after. I can help you with that. But that's a great way to add one of those things into the system. But yes, you can use AI to do that. We actually sales processes, right? If you heard by Winning by Design or Miller Hyman or any of these other processes, guess what? You can use those in your AI repository against your opportunities and your data to see what's happening, right?
Absolutely.
So we hope you guys got some value out of today. Again, here for you. We'll continue to stay on if there's any other questions. I know we have a few more minutes left, but we're happy to keep staying here and keep answering questions. Dian and I are not short of having conversations. You'd love to do this routinely. You got it. We just talked about it. Tasha, you heard that and you saw that. So Tasha will sign us up and we'll continue to do these sessions as long as you guys keep joining. Please help us share this out, right? Share out this there'll be a presentation link, share it out, and we're here for you. We're community people. Forget about our badges and our company names. Dian and I are here to support the community, both in everything AI, Copilot, and Dynamics. That's our focal point. So if you guys want to hear about real world things, we can take you on some product tours, show you like the score and some of those things. Great, Dan. That's awesome. We'll definitely share this out with you. And again, if you're having a problem talking to your IT, talking to the business, can't get the tools in there, don't let that stop you from playing with it. Sign up for an account, right? Sign up for an Office account. Play with some of those things. There's a lot of free trials. All of those things will all help you. So with that, I see a lot of goodbyes in the message. I think everybody's got to go. So, hey, great to see you again, Dian, and we'll do another one shortly.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.